Okay. Mr. Grady, we're all set when you are.
We're all set, everybody ready? Good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Grady. I am standing in for Commissioner Mike Muddett, who's unable to be here tonight. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Inland Wetlands Commission of Monroe. It is April 27th. Time is 7:05. The first order of business, as always, is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My paper tells me my next order of business is to introduce the members of the commission. Starting over here on my right is Ross Mastroloko. Is that right? That's right. I mispronounced. Next to him is Jim Stewart, who is a professional engineer. Commissioner Megan Hayden, who is a licensed attorney and also our treasurer. I am Jason Grady. To my left is Lois Spence, who is our secretary. To her left is Donna Shazinski, who is our inland wetland and land use coordinator. To her left is Scott Schatzeline, who is our town engineer and our inland and wetlands agent. And we also have David McCullum, who is our inland and wetland inspector. That's everybody, right? Fantastic. I'm supposed to read our mission statement, and the objective and purpose of the Inland and Wetlands Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland and wetlands watercourses within the town of Monroe. In the normal course of our meetings, we will hear public hearings and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have an applicant make a representation or a presentation to the commission, during which and after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. The commission will then review town staff and other independent comments. The meeting will be then opened up to the public for comment. I will ask that all comments be made to the chair or the commission. After any and all the comments, pro, in opposition, and or of a general nature are made, the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond. It is not necessary that the applicant respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. There will be no further opportunity for new questions unless new material is entered in as evidence or testimony during the response. Please keep any and all comments, pros and cons, specific to inland and wetlands related matters. Other applications that do not involve public hearing will follow a similar format, with the exception that there will be no public comments allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless otherwise noted. The agenda is up here in green if anybody would like a copy. Is there any changes to the agenda today?
There is a change. There's an additional item under Section 10, Department of Public Works for permitted uses as of right, discussion on Dusky Pond, proposed improvements. And there is one administrative review we're going to add for 100 Hammertown Road. And that is it.
Thank you. Okay, next order of business is the minutes of April 13th, 2016. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
You and Jim, you and here.
Can we approve with only 2 members present?
I watched it.
You watched it?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you watched and if you
If you
read
watched
and you
it.
previewed
Okay.
the minutes, then yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
As long as everyone,
Approve the minutes as read, or as written.
okay.
Motion by
Jim?
Jim. I hear a second.
Second?
Second by Commissioner Hayden. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Didn't see it.
You didn't say
Okay.
it, you abstained? So
Okay,
we have
Jim
4
was-
ayes with 1 abstention. Minutes approved. Okay, I will open this up to general public participation. I ask that any public comment not pertain to anything on our agenda today, but anybody have any comments of a general nature in inland wetland matters? Town of Monroe? Hearing none. We have no application hearing determinations, no subdivision report recommendation of planning and zoning. On to regulated activities, IWC 2016-06,
No,
760.
I gotta,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I have to do a correction. I just realized that the 716 Wheeler Road, that should be on under section 3 as well.
Okay,
So, just duly noted, I guess, we handle those simultaneously, so really as a record, it's also a subdivision referral.
okay, so regular hearing, meetings, and subdivision report for 716 Wheeler Road, subdivision of a residential lot for proposed construction of a new single-family dwelling. If you guys can, to the podium and state your name for the record.
John Mack with Stewart Summers Company in Southbury, Connecticut, representing Gary Howland, the applicant owner, for the two-lot subdivision.
Excellent.
And this is for a two-lot subdivision on Wheeler Road. There's an existing house on one of the lots. The new lot will have a proposed house, 4-bedroom, with a septic system and a new well. I just submitted the health approval, and there also is a new letter from the client stating the shed to be removed and how to be removed. There are copies, copy of the letter for the shed. There's all the work is done out of the 100-foot setback. All the new proposed work is out of the setback. So the only thing that we had to do is remove a shed because it was within the proposed property line setback. And there's a couple of copies of that letter.
Did you guys get copies of that
No.
beforehand?
It was emailed, but,
Do you need to mark it?
I think it's on the computer, actually. We go into the stick drive.
So,
Yes, we have it on the stick drive, but God has to come here, so we can mark that as an exhibit.
The letter just states that the shed will be dismantled and removed into a dumpster on the other side.
The
Just
dumpster's
small
on the
shed.
outside, because that is in, the shed was in that's a regulated activity, correct, if I'm not mistaken? So-
Yeah, I had to correct the wetlands application
Okay.
and add that to the application originally. It wasn't in there.
Now, you want to remove the shed?
Yes.
Fourth one down.
The client is gonna remove the shed.
Or he wants to remove the shed? Or is he
He
doing
doesn't
it,
want
is he
to,
doing
but-
it to satisfy us?
716.
No, it's
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Moving it didn't make much sense. It's an over 100-year-old shed, so structurally, moving it didn't make a lot of sense.
Make sure you state your name and address.
I'm sorry, Gary Howland, owner, 716 Wheeler Road.
Thank you, sir.
But its condition is,
It's standing, it's sound structurally, but in moving it, we were just a little concerned that, didn't make a lot of sense. We weren't getting a lot of value, so we just decided we just take it down. It was gonna be behind the old house anyway, so it wasn't gonna be really in line with the new structure, even though it was part of the property of it. So having somebody walking behind the existing property to get at their shed, probably was best just to either remove it or take it out.
It would be located on a new lot, and it'd be pretty far from the new house, so, and plus it's in the setbacks. We came up with this property line to follow the existing stone walls that are out there, so.
Just for the record, just for clarification, I wanted to get a little bit more information so that when the time comes, you know, we have it documented what you're gonna do and you don't have any issues with it. So what I was asking for was you give a little bit more description of what you're doing and how you're doing it, so we know, again, we know what to expect during the construction in terms of, you know, what kind of equipment, are you gonna remove the foundation, what type of grading you're gonna do there?
There's no real foundation there other than some stone. It's just basically up on some stone, so.
Okay, so when you
There's
take
nothing
this,
dug there, there's no
there's no
basement or
depression.
cellar or anything like of that
So
sort.
you're gonna leave the
We'll
stones,
leave all the stonework there, exactly, just like we do on the other shed, which is a little closer to the old house, which you can see, you have as fire pit, it's not really a fire pit, it is an old fire pit, it was an old foundation to where they used to do horseshoes.
okay, so how are you gonna take that down? Are you going to bring equipment in, you're gonna try to
No, we could
move
probably,
it out of
we
there?
could probably section it out ourselves with chainsaw, just cut it up and.
Just
put
cut
in
it
the
up
dumpster.
and by.
I would probably cart it over with
by
my
hand?
small machine, it's not gonna be any disturbance of any sort. I drive my machine back there all the time to put stuff back
Yeah,
there.
okay, so it's fairly
Storage
clear in
shed.
there, and then you just,
Yeah, it's not wet, it's not gonna be disturbed, there's a road leading right to it right now.
yeah, okay, so no trees, you're not gonna cut any
No,
trees?
no, no, not necessarily, I have a path right to it, because I use it as a shed right now, and I always put my pool supplies, and I usually bring it over with the machine.
Right,
So-
I just wanted to get it on the
Yeah,
record, so.
no, that's fine.
So the whole shed is wood framed,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it's just sitting on a bed of crushed stone, is that what it is?
No, not crushed stone, kind of more stone piers.
Okay,
Some solid stone piers. It's very similar to what you see as, it's not that's not a fire pit there at all. That was actually at one time structural as well, but probably in time it rotted and they knocked it down.
so you're just gonna cut off the wood and leave the stone where it is?
Leave the stone as is, no digging, no messing up.
And where are you gonna put the dumpster to put the
I
stuff
can
in?
put it on the other lot when we're doing, on that lot itself, but put it in the main field,
In the main
basically.
field, where you're gonna be
Yeah,
doing all the other
'cause it's
stuff
only
anyway.
maybe a 7,500 foot to get out to the field.
You're just not gonna drag anything back from
No,
the
no,
elephant
no.
there? Fantastic, thank
No.
you.
How old is this shed?
I really don't know, to be honest with you, looking at it, it is full 2x, so it's not timber framed or anything of that sort, so probably it's gotta be 40s, 50s, I'm guessing. This understanding I have with this shed was built to, so basically, one of the daughters of the original owner lived in there when she had a drinking problem. They actually built it so they could get her out of the house. That's what I was, actually I had an old fireplace at one time too. So, but it's not very big. I mean, literally, I don't know how she lived in there, but she did, from what I was told.
Must be being into like your doghouse.
We did find a bunch of alcohol bottles around there, so I do believe the story.
No comments.
I'm just reading Scott's stuff, newest stuff,
Picture last night.
Yeah.
knowing the need for
Yeah, there should be a picture of it on the file.
conveyance along the frontage property, both roads will associate the reduction of lot size. So you're reducing the lot size?
That is up to the plan, to, the lot reduction of the right of way. We're still looking at it on the opposite sides of the streets with the subdivisions across the street. With those property lines, it may make the 50 feet. There might be a spot where it's 48 feet, but that's a planning and zoning issue, and I don't think it's gonna, we might revise the record map that we included in those 9 sets that we gave you a little bit, but I don't think it's gonna make a big difference.
So that wouldn't change anything getting closer
No.
to our regulated areas?
No, the house, the existing house, goes back to, what, 1890s?
No, really not.
The early 1700s.
Almost 1800, early 1800s.
Early 1800s?
One of the old
And
houses
it's like,
in Monroe.
the right of way is currently 18 feet from the front of the house, so
Right.
there's not much more land he could.
If I could just clarify what my comment was talking about, because I have a little bit of concern relative to the procedure here. What's happening is when you subdivide a piece of property, they are required by the subdivision regulations to provide a conveyance to the town so that the roadway right-of-way along their frontage in situations where it's not there. So we've made that information available to them, and we're, as you said, we're waiting to hear from them as far as how they're going to address that. Although I agree with them that it's not going to affect where they're, where you're looking there, where the wetlands are. Procedurally, your commission provides a referral to planning and zoning relative to a proposed subdivision plan. And if the proposed subdivision plan changes, for instance, a lot gets smaller and the layout's not the same, that needs to be what you refer to them. So I tried to get them to address that before we had the meeting, but it's not addressed yet. So I'm just questioning whether it would be a smart thing to close this hearing until we know how that's happening, until there is a plan submitted to the commission that shows them what you're proposing.
Well, originally, Scott, wasn't it also the towns that they did not want the stone walls?
Stone walls are not the issue here. The stone walls, it's not that we don't want them. If they end up in the right-of-way, they end up in the right-of-way. What I'm referring to is you have a subdivision referral, and the statutes say that your subdivision plan has to come before the Inland Wetlands Commission before it goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission. That they provide a referral to the Planning and Zoning Commission relative to that subdivision plan. Now, a lot of times, their referral is very much so looking at the actual layout of the lots, as they relate to potential impacts to wetlands. But that subdivision plan is what they're commenting on, then goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission. You don't know what your subdivision plan is yet, because you don't know, or you haven't told us, how you're going to convey that land. Because if you just did it the typical way and provided for the 50-foot frontage, your lot's gonna be too small.
Well, this was re-subdivided once before,
Yeah, that's correct.
so this is a re-subdivision.
And the subdivision regulations say that you shall provide the right-of-way for subdivisions and re-subdivisions.
It doesn't say re-subdivision.
It says re-subdivision.
It does say re-subdivision.
Yes, it does. So it's your choice. If you close the hearing, you may force the commission to take various action. If you leave the hearing open, I'm trying to save you the hassle of coming back. You can resolve that issue. Put it on your plan here. They do the referral to P&Z and you move.
I guess my
along.
question is, what does the town, do they want property from me?
The
Because if we have
town,
4.1, I guess what I'm asking is if we have 4.1 acres, and when we originally had it re-subdivided, it was the understanding that there was still another lot there. If you take property, then we could then be under our 4 acres?
that's correct. That's correct. We require that. That's in the subdivision and re-subdivision regulations.
I guess my question is, in the first subdivision, why would that property not have been taken then, and then have been allowed to, so we knew we had 4 acres?
I don't have an answer for you, but the regulations say subdivisions
Because
and
I'm
re-subdivisions.
just asking, because when I purchased the property, it was on the understanding that there was a lot there. So
This is something we should really be talking at the
This is all
office.
planning and zoning.
And try to
This is
work
not wetlands
It's,
issue
you're
at all.
correct, it's not wetlands.
I understand, but
But
we
we
do
have
have
nothing
to,
to make a recommendation.
we have to,
Well,
we have
yeah,
to send a
we
referral
have
to
go
them.
through planning too, and what they come up with, it could be just an easement too. It doesn't have to be land given to the town. It could be a grading easement and a pedestrian easement.
But we need something proposed in order to make the
That's
recommendation.
Well, what changes in planning will come back with the new plan for the wetlands.
Okay, well, my understanding is Scott said that was your option, but that's.
I just don't wanna see them, I mean, if they get this approved, it goes to P&Z, it's a different plan, now they gotta do it all over again.
I
So I'm
understand.
just trying to save them the hassle and the money for doing that, and I relayed that information a number of weeks ago, and I've been waiting for some type of response so that I could help move you along with this if there is a solution. And that's where we are with it. That's what I'm trying to do.
Well, I think the commission understands what you're trying to do, and if the applicant understands the risk involved there, I mean, I don't know that, you know, how much more convincing.
Yeah, we're still looking at the options with planning. I talked to the planner today, and so
You could ask for a waiver, correct?
well,
It's not, this is not an issue that we should be
Okay.
resolving with this commission.
Okay.
That's something that I think they need to come into the office and we need to be working on. The town planners are part of it as well.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to get at. I mean, I think they're prepared to close their hearing tonight.
Yes.
Yes.
And what Scott's trying to say is, you know, instead of closing, you might want to consider leaving it open until
Right.
this issue is settled. And I think
If
that's,
If they want to close it, and that's their proposal, then
I-
then
fine,
they're risking
I'm-
to come back.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay, so it's your intention to close the hearing today?
Well, it's not really a public hearing, but
But the statutory timeframes allow that this has to be reviewed and resolved within 65 days. And you're at the end of your 65 days.
We've
Yep.
You
got-
do have 65 more days of
Right.
extension time that you can request if you want to keep this open.
And
I
if
do
you're
have-
working it out with planning and zoning,
I do
you're not
have a
really gonna
letter,
lose any
extension
time.
letter for 35 days.
Okay,
So what we could do is leave
the hearing
discussion
open.
open for 35 more days.
Right, it's not
That's
a hearing,
okay.
That
right?
makes sense.
And call the office so we can get together
Sure.
and we'll start working on that, see if there's some kind of solution.
All right.
I know, if you wanna come around, just hand one to Scott, and we'll hand. That's all I need is one for that.
So
Okay.
call me and we'll set something
I
up.
would just say one thing, is as far as the shed, I don't know about the rest of the commission, but I'm not inclined to want to force you to rip it down. You know what I mean? Because you're going in the review area to rip it down.
Right.
So, and I see it's, 60 years old.
Well, I was told my options last time I was here was either I had to knock it down or I had to move it.
Yeah, that's a planning and zoning
That's a
issue,
planning and
because
zoning.
it's too
Planning
close to
zoning.
the,
It's in the
That's
setback.
right, it's in the setback.
So it
Okay,
kind of-
I understand.
so that was
So
kind
they
of-
want you to rip it down.
Right,
so
and I didn't want to move the property line into the existing, so.
Okay,
Okay, so we're gonna leave, I'm sorry, go ahead.
that's all right, I just wanna clarify, 35 days will bring you to June 3rd. That means you would need to be ready for the 25th,
25th.
May 25th.
That's 2 weeks.
40.
yeah, they run every.
Yeah, so if you did 41, it would bring you to June 8th.
June 8th.
Right, but then they'd have to, so then you'd have the 20 days left.
And change it to 41.
It depends on how much time you want, I'm just giving you your option of time.
Okay, if we
35
have to,
will only
we'll
give
do
you
another
the,
extension letter.
all right, so I'm sorry,
That'll get them to the next meeting.
to the June 8th meeting.
Yeah, and then if they,
That way it gives you all of May to get your ducks
Get
in a row,
this-
and,
Okay,
does that help?
yep.
Okay, so we would do 41 days.
41 days.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That regular hearing will remain open.
No, we shouldn't have. It's open, so we'll do it the next.
Okay.
Okay. We're gonna move on here, or rush you guys?
Did you read off the next one? Because you-
Not yet.
Okay.
I just want to make sure you guys are.
He was giving us a. You all set?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you want to talk about the status of
Okay.
the next one.
On to our public hearings, IWC 2016-01, 6769 Turkey Rouge Road, 67 Karen Drive, 56 Lorraine Drive, remediation of previously disturbed regulated area. I think as we discussed in our last meeting, we granted an extension, and the hearing was continued until 5/11/2016, correct?
Yeah,
It's just a placeholder, so.
So we're gonna
Yeah.
postpone till our next meeting on that one. All right. There we go. IWC 2016-05, 1014 Monroe Turnpike, proposed reconstruction improvements to Massac High football stadium to include drainage and lighting, continued from our 4/13/2016 meeting. Good evening.
Good evening. Gotta get this up for you. Good evening. My name is Vincent McDermott, from Vice President, Senior Vice President Milo McRoom, with me is Bill Root, a soil scientist and wetland scientist as well. And we left off at the last meeting, continuation. There are a couple of things that you asked us to consider, and we've done that. And we're here to answer any questions that you may have generated since the last meeting. The one of the outstanding issues or questions that you had, let me try to bring it up here quickly, was a detail of the outlet structure. We sent it over to Scott this afternoon. We're happy to give copies in for the record. If you remember, we had two proposed outlets that we are going to, existing outlets that we're going to use, and also use the existing outlets as a riser structure within the work area to act for stormwater for temporary sedimentation. So basically, the existing pipe, as you can see on the bottom, I can share these with you. I don't know, Scott, how you want to distribute these? The bottom of the illustration is the existing pipe, and we would simply put an elbow on it to turn it up to the approximate elevation of the existing track, encase it, would be slotted pipe, encase it in stone on the top, around the edge, so as water built up, it would seep through. We can, if you would like, to put a grate on the top of that. So in essence, the entire construction area within the track would be serving as a detention basin. We also discussed at the last meeting that at the outfall, those two outfalls, the difficulty of putting in filter fabric, but we now have shown on the plans that we can put, in the details anyway, we can put a straw wattle and put it into the ground, so if any sediment does get released, that will trap that as well. So that's a solution that we discussed, and here's some detail to it. I'm happy to talk about that some more. The other issue that was raised that we can talk about as well is the protocol. I don't remember which one of you asked about water quality testing post-construction. I think, Mr. Acting Chairman, I think you were the one who raised that question. And we do have a protocol that we can use. And the recommendation is that before we start construction, we sample the water today. so we know what the background is. And then going forward, at 2 times during the year for the next 2 years post-construction, to do a water quality sampling early in the spring and then early in the summer. And to identify, since it's organics that we're looking at, we would be really looking at nitrate and nitrite, nitrogen, phosphorus, some BOD, dissolved lead, and also do an aquatic toxicity test. And then the normal stuff while you're sampling. If that's something you would like us to do, we said at the last meeting we would do that. So those are the two, I thought, the 2 outstanding issues that were brought up that we didn't have good answers for.
How many times post development would this be done?
I'm sorry?
How many times post development?
So it'd be 4 times for 2 years.
2 years. For the record, Lois Spence, I did listen, actually I watched the video a couple of times on this application, and thank you very much for covering the questions and stuff. That was great. I did have a few more questions, if you don't mind my asking. Is it time?
Yeah.
Have
Yeah, if
you
you have some
completed what you
additional
wanted to do before we ask more questions?
Those were the outstanding questions, I believe, from the last meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't quite listening to you. Say it
Yeah, I
again.
think that we addressed most of the questions last meeting, and those were the 2 ones that you were gonna check out,
Right.
if I believe, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I may have missed this because sometimes the recording didn't pick up everything that you said, so if I ask you redundant questions, I apologize. When the field is used as its own sedimentation basin, up to what year storm can it accommodate? How many inches of rain?
I would think that we can certainly capture a 1-year storm event, and that's what we're required to do in that basin.
All right, so what happens if we have some of our atypical weather that we've been having over the last couple of years, where you have a 1-inch storm followed by a 4-inch storm, and all of a sudden we've got all this water? What happens to all that extra?
See, what would happen to it is that the track, I'm going to try to go and bring up the image. The track is a basin, and it would actually act as a level spreader, because the edge of the track let me go to the other side. Yeah, this is it here. I think this does work. The track is tilted inward, and so we have the outlets in this vicinity. And so what would happen is that this is dead level, and that would act as a level spreader. And in our sedimentation and erosion control, we have filter fabric on all along this edge as well. And so there would virtually not be any velocity there, and it would rise and it would just spill over, but the filter fabric would catch the sediment.
Supposed to catch, I'm sure it doesn't catch 100%.
Well, colloids would pass through, but anything other than, as you would in any other filter fabric, you would catch the coarse sediments before they would escape.
Okay.
How much, I assume no stormwater crosses the track into the playing surface?
Sorry?
There isn't stormwater outside of the track area that can cross into the
No,
track,
no,
correct?
because it rises and then goes down
Then
the
it
other
goes
side.
down. How deep is the excavation expected to be in the track area?
It will vary, but it will be, because we expect to have about 12 inches of topsoil that we're going to have to bail out.
Okay, but I mean, the thickness of the track section is 12 inches of stone and,
Slightly less than that, yes.
so I mean, theoretically, you could accept almost 12 inches of rain
12 inches on
12
that
inches
particular,
of rain
in the bathtub.
in the
That's right.
bathtub.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
It's a nice
So-
number. One of the things that I think Jim mentioned at the last hearing, I was, since I can't see the picture when you're pointing at the picture in the video, I can't see where's the riser that you're discussing and the plug?
Right now, there is, this is it right here, there's one there, and there is one there.
Okay.
This is the existing drainage system, and there's the outlet, and we're connecting to that drain system that discharges on the hillside outside the track area.
Were you able to come up with a suitable sediment block that Scott had mentioned?
Yeah, that's what I showed on that early illustration that was just handed out.
Okay.
Scott had asked for, if we had a plug, like a plumber's plug, and they don't make them at 10 inches. They make them up to, that would be used in sanitary sewers. They only make them up to 8. So we came up with this alternative solution that I think is going to work just fine.
Okay. I'm a little concerned because we still don't know what the federally listed species are.
I'm sorry?
The National Diversity Database. We still don't know what the species are, unless you have discovered that since then.
We have not discovered it because you don't get that information back quickly enough. And unless they are aquatic species, that is something, with due respect, is not part of the wetlands process.
Well, if, we have an if. Now, we can't really determine whether or not these things are going to be harmed if we don't know what they are. So it would be kind of helpful to know what they are.
Well, Bill Root, the wetland ecologist in my alumni room, we routinely query the database so that we can provide information to the commission. And I think as Matt Sanford, who we're tag teaming with, he's down in Greenwich tonight, and I was in Greenwich last time. I think he explained that for projects like this, where we're not disturbing enough land service to trigger permit applications like a stormwater discharge permit, we're not disturbing a certain number of acres, we don't have any other state or federal permits. So we don't, as Vince was saying, we don't really fall into that bailiwick of needing to devise protection strategies for those species. That said, we always query the database, and the reason we do that is that when we get around to designing the project, if we know what those species are, and if we're disturbing additional lands, as you're heading with your question, I think, then we can design in protection measures for those species. In a case like this, where we're working within the existing disturbed land mass, so we're not extending into the woods, we're not clearing trees, we're not going down the slope, we're not in the wetlands, we're not changing the discharge points, things like that. We're not, we certainly realize and know that there's no species that are inhabiting the playing field, which is where we're doing all our work. So our reasoning is that we would not query the database for what they are because we're not extending beyond our limited disturbance. Therefore, we're very unlikely to impact either species, which are not within the limited disturbance, say a box turtle or something, and we're not, we're not disturbing their habitat either because we're working in this field. So we're not disturbing the habitat and we're not disturbing the species where they are now. If you pursue that question as to offsite impacts, if we were generating an awful lot more stormwater, or we were changing the characteristics of the stormwater, then I think the question would be fairer. If you were putting a new stormwater discharge in the very large parking lot or the roof or some more water source, for example, down into a brook, then you might want to know what species were down there, not just endangered species, but fishery species, things like that. But again, in a case like this, as I understand the application, we're not generating new discharges, we're not changing the stormwater characteristics, particularly as far as temperature or constituents, and I think the sampling that Vince described will show that to you. So we don't know exactly what the species are because we have not queried the database, but we don't think that we have any potential for impacts upon those species because we're not affecting their habitat, because we're in the limited disturbance, and we're not changing off-site impacts in any way as far as the application, we can determine. So. But as Vince said, it might take us 4 months to get an answer back on what those species are anyway.
Okay, well, I'm going to put that one on the shelf for a minute then, because I have some more questions that may actually, there was a lot of discussion about the track itself, not the track, I'm sorry, the field itself, and the AstroTurf that is being, I guess it's not called AstroTurf, it's called
It is
artificial turf.
definitely not AstroTurf.
Okay, not AstroTurf.
Even generically, it's not AstroTurf.
Okay. There was, and you answered them beautifully. They, the whole thing appears to be very inert and very, very safe for the environment, which is great. But we never really talked about the contents of the track surface. I looked in the detail sheet, and it does say that it's rubber, but it has polyethylene, is it? There's some
Polyurethane.
kind of polyurethane. Okay. What is the, has there been any studies on leachate from a rubber track surface?
Yes, let me point out that what we're doing, aside from the construction of the D-zone, all right, so how do I get this image to move over? The wrong way.
What is the D-zone?
The D-zone is the jumping area. Aside from a D-zone for the high jump area, we are resurfacing with the material that's already there. We already have a track surface. We're not built, aside from the 2 lanes that we're constructing for the sprint section and the D-zone, which are expanded D-zone. And maybe I should use the color image. If I can find it.
Mouse does work, sir.
It does.
You can use the cursor if you want to go on.
Do I? Sorry. Where are we going?
There is everyone.
No, I want the new one. This area here is referred to a D-zone. These are D-zones. So the material in here will be new, the material in here will be new, and that will be new. But the rest of it, and the covering is exactly what has been there for years, and just a new application of it. And so that is a polyurethane-bound product with granules of EPDM, which is a type of rubber, and they're encased, and they happen to be sprayed on the surface. The component of concern in the past was lead, and that has been removed from the products as they now exist. So those were the ones that others were of concern, and those compounds have been removed so that the runoff from here is acceptable. And this is the same product that has been, as I said, a newer version of the products that have been used over the past years on this track.
How long is the polyurethane encapsulation supposed to last?
It should last as long as there is rubber on the track, and I would say that the material that is there now, while it is worn, the life expectancy of a track surface is 20 years. Now, in this particular case, the new section will last 20, but some of the other material we're resurfacing, and so that will have another 7 years of life after this work is done.
They have life, but I'm concerned about protection of the rubber from exposure, from leachate at that point. When the polyurethane layer gets worn down, in my estimation,
the rubber is EPDM, which is not tire rubber. That has been of concern in the media. It is not tire rubber. This is manufactured EPDM, which is a type of plastic. It's referred to as rubber, but it's a type of plastic that is shown to be inert. And then we cover it to bind it together. The urethane is a binding agent to hold the pieces together.
So the plastic, rubber, whatever we want to call it,
EPA.
is inert, and it
Yeah.
has been proven to be,
Yeah.
all studies have shown that.
Mhm.
That was my concern, because I saw in the detail sheet that the water goes right off the track, right into
Exactly right.
into the drain,
That's
and,
right.
you know, with nothing in between, so that was my concern. I was not, do you happen to have a piece of that, the fabric that everybody saw last time?
The piece of,
Of the field and whatever it
no, I
was.
did
that,
not bring
you didn't bring?
any poly,
Okay.
the grass,
I
I
have
did
to
not bring.
apologize if I'm not able to be
Okay,
here.
I did not
Oh,
bring
no,
that.
I think it was the coconut shrub.
Oh, the infill, we have this.
It was the stuff you wanted to smoke.
This is the stuff. Yeah, this is a nickel bag.
Looks like pipe tobacco.
I'm sorry, is it a $30 bag now?
I think you still would
I have no idea. Well, it shows that I don't know anything about.
So there
Controlled
is
substances.
a layer of something over this, besides the grass.
The grass,
Right.
this is mixed with silica sand in the fabric. Let's see if we can find a detail.
Okay, I looked at the detail, but I wasn't quite able to figure out, what was it?
He showed it a lot, you probably couldn't see it, but he demonstrated that.
Right, okay, yeah, you're right. I
Did you wanna check that
A
out?
little bit design on the video.
Oh, because you're looking at the back.
You're looking at it from there, so you can
Right.
see it.
Mhm,
Okay.
yeah. Or he's pointing at the wall, which you can't see either, so. So I guess the basic part of my question is there's no opportunity for any of this small particulate matter to float
No,
and get away?
no.
Not the
That's-
coconut, not the cork?
Yeah, and if anything does get tracked into the track edge drain, there are screen baskets in the track edge drain.
With the tininess of those particles, though, that must get clogged pretty quickly, I
Oh,
would
they do
think.
need to be maintained.
And is that maintenance plan part of the application?
That is,
Part of what staff would be doing on a regular basis.
That's right. As part of maintenance, they have to pull the traps and clean them out from debris and anything else that comes in.
Great. News and go through your list. Oh, that was the other thing. You mentioned in the details that there's compacted dirt below the stone layer.
Mhm.
Does that change the porosity of the soil compared to what's there now?
Somewhat, perhaps. What we believe is below the existing topsoil layer, we found some sandy material, but we will compact it to 95%. There's still going to be some porosity, but the rest of it will travel beneath on the stone, travel toward the edge drains, seep through additional stone filters before it gets into the collector pipe.
So how does that change the statement that you made that thermal loading will be prevented by the seepage through the dirt, which is?
Through the stone, well, first of all, there will be some going through the dirt naturally, as it does now. But the rest of it, I'm trying to see, I think I have a set cross-section here to show how this works. Someplace. Yeah, I can't find it. So, the fabric is on this. The fabric is rested on this. It's filled with sand and the organic material. Passes through this, hits the stone. Some flows into the stone. That doesn't, they flow across to the drain. The drain itself is deep. It is packed in stone, down 3-4 feet, whatever it happens to be. There you go. You can, thank you, Jen.
No problem.
Right through here. And so when the water passes into this trench is filled with stone, and then it flows out. And so the thermal change is that this is down well below the surface. and where the increase in temperature at the surface temperature goes down below into a cooler climate, so to speak, before it runs off.
I think that's. So you mentioned in your testimony last time that you would include a dewatering system, a backup plan for the plug system? Or that you'd like
That's
to
what we
go
were
over that
talking
now?
about. What we did is we brought this elevation up of the pipe so that we will get the full area, the full depth, as Mr. Stewart talked about before, can come over, and then it acts as a weir. The dewatering would, in any good contractor, is going to slowly release what they can. We believe that as we place the stone into the area during construction, that will act as its own filter, and obviously the placement of the stone would not occur while it's full of water. It's sandy, so there will be natural migration of the water into the ground. So we really don't expect that we're going to have to pull a plug. And if we did, we would run it through some sort of filtration system of stone and so on. But we do not expect that we will have to have a pump system or anything else to get rid of the water that may accumulate. We will have to wait till water goes down in normal construction for it to dry, so we can work in the dry. So I think that the expectation here is that this is not a traditional sediment basin that is outside the work area. It is the work area. It has to be dry for us to work in. So if there is an accumulation of water, we're just going to have to wait for it to dissipate. We're not going to be able to do much with it.
How many of these have you built?
How many fields?
Yeah.
I don't know, probably on the order of 30, 35.
And has the water ever been a problem? Because I'm assuming you use the same kind of bathtub method.
Yes, we do. And on some where the underlying soils haven't been so great, we just have to wait. We did a project up in Washington, town of Washington, 2 summers ago, and it delayed construction for 2 weeks. We had some bad for it to.
But it
go
didn't
down.
come over the,
Not at
didn't
all.
overflow.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Vince, do you have a clean copy of the letter that you submitted about the protocol? I'm going to enter that in her exhibit. No, I think you just want to run for this.
That's it? I'm done.
All set?
Yep, thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions? Public comment now, right?
Yeah, why don't we run through the remaining exhibits and including the one I just gave you, so get it in the record.
Okay, so we did all those, so it's just these two.
Yeah, I think you did all of them at the last meeting, so it's just the ones you handed me tonight, so.
Yeah. Okay, so, Exhibit 17 was the 8.5 by 11 map that was for the temporary storm drain outlet riser detail. And then Exhibit 18 is the stormwater sampling protocol. And that's it.
Yeah, both submitted tonight and they're dated.
Oh, April 27th, yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm going to open this public hearing up for comment. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say in support of this application? Seeing none. Does anybody have anything like to say in opposition to this application? Seeing none, does anybody have anything they'd like to say of a general nature in this application? Seeing none. Anything else to add?
We're
sir?
done. We just hope that you find it, that this application meets your requirements, and you will act on it hopefully tonight so we can move on.
Okay, commission's finished. Close the public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, Scott, did,
What? There is no
We
bond.
need to put his comments in, right?
I'm sorry, was I supposed to,
No,
did I hit all my points?
you're fine, you just didn't use the gavel, that's all. That was a
Always,
big- that's
always
a-
wanted to do
You're
that.
a big moment.
Always wanted to do that. I apologize, it's my first time doing the chairman stuff, so.
Doing a fine job.